Chris Luzniak.
And I'm Rob Byer.
And this is the DebateMath podcast,
the show where we redefine what it means to debate in mathematics and education.
Where multiple sides of ideas are explored, evidence matters, and we all grow and learn from hearing each other.
Because the world and our classrooms are not binary.
So let's dig into this month's debate.
Hi, listeners. So as we kick off the back-to-school season, we wanted to spend some time exploring new ways to bring debate and argumentation into your math classroom.
Last year, with the help of Mike Flynn and Zach Champagne, we shared a few discussion and debate routines to help get meaningful conversations started.
And this year, we're taking things a step further by highlighting how brilliant educators are building deeper activities around mathematical argumentation and debate. In today's episode, we're diving into a routine called Math Court.
What is Math Court, and how does it work? And might teachers find them powerful for student thinking and discourse? Tune in as our guests walk us through the details in our mini lesson.
Well, here, zooming in from West Virginia, we have a math teacher and new fellow with M3T, a proud West Virginian who said she's always down for sushi. It's Stacy Estep. Hi, Stacy. How are you?
Hi, I am good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Can you tell listeners more about you and where you are and what your current role is?
I currently teach grades 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade for math in McDowell County, West Virginia. And this is my 8th year, getting ready to finish up our 8th year teaching. I am.
Okay, and then the question we ask all of our guests, when did math become controversial to you?
I don't think that I really felt that it was controversial until I started teaching. It's always just been so simple and I could just see it and do it until I began trying to teach it and realized real quick that people just can't see and do math. Like they could not just see it and do it like I could. And that I needed to work with myself to show that there is 100 other ways that we can do something. And I just never saw that until I became a teacher.
Awesome. Thank you.
And joining us also from West Virginia, we have a math teacher and an M3T fellow who is hoping for a Steelers versus Packers matchup in the next Super Bowl, which I'm curious about being in Pittsburgh. It's Stephen Alley. Hey, Stephen, welcome.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. Can you tell our listeners where you are and what your current role is?
Yeah, currently work as a teacher at Riverview High School in McDowell County in West Virginia. I teach Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and College Algebra. And I also serve as a Mountaineer Mathematics Master Teacher, M3T Fellow in West Virginia, and also run and lead the County PD for math teachers 6th through 12th grade. And I'm still not sure who I want to win out of the Steelers and Packers, but I am I've been a big fan of all the quarterbacks that come out of the Packers. So Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. So I just think it'll be intriguing.
Okay, so I don't want to continue. No, I'm joking. So when did math first become controversial to you?
I remember it was my first year of college, and I was taking a college algebra course. There was another student in that class who was very successful and would challenge me on the way that I thought about math. And we progressed through the courses. So college algebra, trig, and then calculus 1 came along. And all of a sudden I realized, there are different ways to really think about this. And just the sheer competitiveness of it all made me just want to debate math with him. Like that was my job going to college, was just, how is he going to think about it? Okay, how am I going to think about it? And I always wanted to one-up him. So it got really intense in Calc 1, but that's really when math became controversial.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you. And with that, let's get into the debate.
We will begin the mini lesson by giving Stephen and Stacy a chance to share about Math Court. What is it, and why might it be useful? Stacy and Stephen, the floor is yours.
I'm going to use my claim is and my warrant is, if that is okay, Chris. I feel like this would work here, so I'm going to do it. My claim is that the change idea, Math Court, is awesome. And my warrant is that math court creates an inviting atmosphere of mathematical debate among the students. And this change idea, and if Stacy's okay, I'll go ahead and start. This change idea requires collaboration, and we decided to use groups of 4 to do math court. Now, one thing that's awesome about this is it is built off of a courtroom, and each student is assigned a role. In an actual court, there are different roles and responsibilities. And our 4 roles that we decided to choose were a judge, a prosecutor, a defendant, and a recorder. And we came up with 2 different methods to solve any particular math problem. And we hand one method to a prosecutor, and we hand the other method to the defendant, and they begin to work out their problems. And then we required our students to basically present their methods to the judge. And then the judge would pick the best method based on the argument. And we used the recorder to basically record everything that the defendant and the prosecutor are saying. And then I'm going to turn this over to Stacy because I want to kind of talk about how she came up with this idea and talk about the Google form she used to kind of record the results of this.
And so at the beginning of the year, we give a survey to our students, and there's a bunch of different questions. And the one that we saw that students probably needed the most help with is what we determine as our bug, what bugs us. And so we noticed that our students weren't defending and arguing their answers. So we began thinking, what could we do to make it a little bit better of responses with our students? And so we started kind of throwing out ideas. We went home after a meeting and was like, let's think of some more stuff, because nothing we really was throwing at the wall, nothing was sticking. And I was on the phone with my sister. My older sister is the prosecuting attorney for the county. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what she does every day. Like, that's her job. She argues, and then there's a defense. I was like, a courtroom. Let's roll with it, And so I was like, okay, math court. Let's go with it. And I was like, how can we do this? We want to kind of keep them in groups. And I was like, well, let's give them some jobs. I said, we've got a judge and defense. And we kind of took that and we met together with the whole group with M3T, with people across the state, and they kind of threw out a few more ideas. And they're like, well, why don't you maybe introduce a judge, and then they can judge how well they are giving their responses for the results. And we're like, okay. And then we began talking in our meetings and was like, well, how are we going to get data back from them? Because we have to have some sort of data to show if it's working or not. And we were like, well, what about a Google form where we have somebody who ranks them 0 to 4, 0 being they just gave nothing for the response. They're like, I did this because I wanted to choose this because I like Desmos. That was it. That's that's a 0. And then 4 being explaining everything and why they think theirs is better. So we decided to make that the recorder. The recorder is responsible for typing. So you have the judge who determines who wins, but the judge is also being scored. The judge gets scored 0 to 4, and their response is why they think the person who explained better. So they're having to listen to the prosecution and the defense and decide, I think the prosecution, won because I liked their responses and they gave this, and I don't think the defense give as much as they could. Then the judge has to give, well, I think they could have included this, or they could have included this. What they could also do to make the other two's response better. So while the recorder is scoring this, and then the one who wins, we've got all the results. The recorder also has to write down, take kind of like a spark notes of what the judge said, what the prosecution said, and what the defense said. So at the beginning of class, we'll put them in random groups, and we'll already decide we have 2 methods. So if we're talking about slope, one of them might have plotting it and doing rise over run, and then one has doing the formula to figure out what the slope is for these 2 points. And so we might say the prosecution has to do the formula, and then the defense is plotting it and counting the boxes. Now, I might be given the prosecution and you might be given the defense, and we might have rather had each other's roles. But what you're given is what you're given, and you have to argue for it whether you like it or not. We also give them the answers ahead of time because we're not worried so much about them getting it right or wrong right now when we're doing it. We're more worried about just them being able to explain how that method worked. and why they think, like why it's better than the other way.
So I'm intrigued. This sounds really fun. So I like the example you gave us of with the slope, right? So how often are you doing this? Like, is this like a weekly thing, or is it like once a semester? Like, is it rare or more common?
We did it first. In the first time we did it, we had to run it so many times, and we did it over the course of, I think it was a week. We had to run it 3 times during the week. So we did it once a class, and it takes about 10 minutes. Actually, let me take that back. The first time we did it, they kind of got into it too much, and it was taking like over half the class. So when we do our bugs and when we're doing our change idea, when we come back, we'll decide if we want to adapt it, change it, keep it. So we're going to bring in a timer on the second time. And so it became like a 10-minute, 2 minutes to figure out, your work, 2 minutes to figure out, to talk about it, and then 2 minutes kind of to figure out who won and then to clean it up. So somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes in each one. But when we were running the thing with M3T, we had to do it, I think, 3 times. And then some of us kept kind of doing it more, maybe once, twice a week. Some classes liked it a lot more than others. Some classes just vibe with things and more than not. Mine really liked it. I kind of, even when we finished the project, I was still doing it maybe once a week, giving them something because they just liked it that much.
Yeah, so that's my next question. So, like, what kind of things you gave us a slope example? What are some other things that you asked that they were taking sides on the prosecutor and defense?
Our particular interest was preparing our kids for the SAT at the end of the year. And on the SAT, they're allowed to use the Desmos calculator. So in this particular, when we was running these iterations for Math Court, we're like, hey, what if we make method one by hand and method two using the Desmos calculator? And that's and we may have used, hey, graph this linear equation or graph this quadratic equation. You could do it by hand, or you can use the graphing calculator on Desmos. Now, for me personally, I really enjoy the Desmos calculator, so I am pushing the Desmos on the SAT for the simple fact as it is going to give them more time to work on problems that maybe they don't quite understand. So there's a lot of different topics there, linear equations, adding, subtracting polynomials. Depending on how the questions are asked on the SAT, you can use the Desmos calculator.
So, Stacy, you were talking about the bugs, okay? And Stephen, I'm curious, what's a bug? Like, I'm brand new to this. I don't know what a bug is. Is it for the teacher? Is it for the student? Like, what is this bug? And can you define that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, in the beginning of the year, being part of M3T, we have developed what we think as teachers is considered doing mathematics. Like, what does that look like in the classroom? What would you expect to see? And after careful debate among all these teachers, we come up with 22 questions. And we feel like these 22 questions, if you see the content in these 22 questions, then students are doing mathematics, which is what we want. Okay, if we want student achievement and student engagement, then we need to be doing mathematics. So we give this survey with these 22 questions in the beginning of the year. Then we look at the data. And basically we use a Likert scale, and we talk about, do you see this? So the first question in the survey is, do you argue or defend your solutions? And they will answer between almost every day, often, sometimes, rarely, or never. When we looked at our data among 4 teachers, when we sit down and look at all the student survey data among 4 teachers, we had a common enemy. Okay, we looked at all the questions, and question one was scoring low. A lot of nevers, a huge percentage in rarely, sometimes. We were not pleased with seeing that. So we're like, okay, our students are saying they're not arguing, defending their answers or their solutions. Well, we understand how valuable that is as a teacher or as teachers. So we need to do something to shift this question in the positive direction. So a bug is something that bugs us as teachers, but it's based on student data.
All right, so now, okay, we have the survey, we find our bug, right? Now I want to set up math court based on the bug.
Mhm.
How do I set up Math Court? Brand new teacher. How do I set up Math Court? And what are some things that went wrong early for you that we could learn from?
Yeah, absolutely. I did not. I love teaching, by the way. If you get it wrong one day, you literally delete it, start the next day. So, um, but anyway, I did not model Math Court. We had this conversation as a group of teachers in our PLC. Uh, I did not model PLC. And when I did not model Math Court, the students struggled with the structure of it. So if I was a new teacher, or if I even do it again with a new group of students, no, I am going to introduce math court, but I'm also going to model it. I'm going to go through it and sit them down and say, okay, if I was a prosecutor, it looks like this. If I was a judge, it looks like this. So I'm going through those things. So modeling beforehand is a great way to save time and to model those expectations for your students.
And let me bring in Stacey here. So, any other advice about starting it off? And can you talk to us also about any like troubleshooting things to keep in mind of like how do I when I'm launching this? I never tried this stuff before, right? I want to get my kids debating though. What should I expect, and what might I want to keep in mind?
The first time I did it, I know that I kind of could have did a little better by putting them in the groups the first time. I let them pick their groups instead of doing the random groups. And I realized like I had some really, really good groups rolling, but then I had some groups who were doing like absolutely nothing. Like I could walk over there and they would still be doing nothing. So I learned really quick, I'm going to start putting them in, spreading them out, which did give me some, like I had some groups who I still might have one person whose job was to be the prosecutor, but they would just straight up say, I don't want to do this. And that was something I feel like we were still trying to figure out how to get even some of them, but those are kind of like, those are the kids who still will look at me and hand me a blank test back too. So, and then also like I'd mentioned earlier about the timer, we hadn't give a timer the first time, and we definitely needed to keep it on pace a little bit better.
And you guys said so like the defender and prosecutor each kind of say their side of the argument, and then the judge gets a moment to talk and say who they picked. Is there ever a tie, or does the judge always have to pick one side over the other?
I told mine that they had to pick. Like I said, you have to pick a side. You can't just be impartial here. You have to say one or the other and give a reason why.
Yeah, so I followed the same route, because one thing about, adding the judge to math court was such a great idea, because what we want is not just arguing, defending. We just want the students to listen to one another and really just hear their thoughts on it. So we wanted them to pick a side because we want them to see the reasoning behind it. We want you to catch that because, critiquing others and that reasoning is so important in a math classroom.
Yep, music to my ears. I love that. So I'm curious what the students were saying to you, like as after you've done it maybe a few times and like they gotten the hang of it. What are they liking about it? What are their takeaways from it? Like what's the positive that you're getting from this?
My students are so competitive that even if they don't win anything from it, the fact that they won an argument was like everything for them. They are like, can we do this again? I just want to beat my buddy over here, which is silly, but they loved being able to like they want to compete all the time. Like I've never met a bunch of competitive kids like I had with this group. So
When you see, I always said with my mentor, we're now at different schools, and we always said this: if you can get a student to talk about your class when they leave your class, you've done something pretty remarkable. So what I have seen was I saw high engagement. I saw students wanting to use a gavel. They're really wanting to get into this. Some even want to start to dress up. Like this is buy-in. Like this is really impressive. And us coming from a county that was considered the second poorest county in the nation, and our students dealing with so much adverse situations, to get students to care about the math, to be engaged in the math, highly engaged in the math, and actually care was so awesome to see. I mean, that's just the only superlative I can think of in that moment to use. So to me, Math Court is something that I'm going to continue using for the rest of my teaching career because I've seen the benefit of it. And these kids were out in the hallways talking to, even when I did it the first time, they're like, hey, when you get to Mr. Alley's room, you're going to be doing something called Math Court. Dude, it's awesome. You're going to love it when you go in there. Like, come on now. I mean, that's a success. So that's awesome to see.
So the last question for me, I'm picturing it. I'm seeing it. I'm hearing it. I love the fact that you have gavels. I think that's awesome as a buy-in piece. I'm wondering from a teacher move, what are some high leveraging facilitating moves that you do to increase the discourse, to get them to continue talking or get them to talk if they aren't? Like, what are some facilitating moves that you've developed over this year that you'd like to share out?
For me, one is setting that culture in your classroom. I gave a study guide for my final exam just a few days ago, and I put a question at the end of that study guide that said, "What did I teach you? Give me 2 to 3 sentences that I taught you that maybe doesn't necessarily talk about content." And a lot of the responses that come back was, it's okay to make a mistake in your classroom. It's okay to have confidence, even if I am wrong, as long as my thinking is in the right place. And so I think it's a culture thing. Like, I think we all as teachers need to build a culture where students feel free to talk about the math and not be penalized for getting an answer wrong. That's like with Math Court, we saw that. They were so stuck on getting the correct answer that we're like, you're missing the whole point here. We're going to give you the answer beforehand, and we want you to focus on the method and defend that method. So we actually gave them the answer so that stress was gone. So I think to answer that question, like, really build a culture in your classroom where they're free to discuss math. And I think that really would pave the way to introducing Math Court into your classroom. It's just another change idea or tool that can create that positive climate within your class.
And Stephen, before I go to Stacy, you actually said so many facilitating moves there. The one setting the culture, another one giving them the answer. Like, that's a facilitation move that's huge, because then the focus is not on are we getting the answer correct. It's the reasoning and the processing,
Mhm.
right? The having the roles, like, that's a strong facilitating move, and then even modeling those roles, and then what does it mean to defend your answer? Like, all these things, like, these are, like, oftentimes as teachers we gloss over like the minute details because we just think it's second nature, but they're so impactful. So everything you said there is so good. Stacy, do you have anything you want to add or that you do slightly different that from a facilitation move?
I kind of piggybacked off of something we started last year a little bit, but I kind of keep it going all the time in my classroom, not just with Math Court, but anytime they answer and I go and give them, it started with sticky notes, but I ended up buying little tickets. They get a ticket and I tell them, I was like, whether they're right or wrong, I'm not worried. In the past, we'd focus more on just trying to get them to talk because at that point they weren't even talking at all. And they get a ticket, and whether if they were wrong, it's thank you for answering anyways. But they knew that they could answer whether they were right or wrong. They weren't worried about it so much anymore. And I noticed, like, even when we were doing this, if I heard them give a good explanation, they were getting like 2 tickets. So they knew they were, which is, I guess it's kind of a bribe thing. But even up to 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they want bribed with, it might be 1 bonus point, but they want that. They want that something physically give to them. At least my kids did. And I also noticed sometimes I would input myself into their court. Like, I would come in and be like, okay, well, what do you think about this? And drop a little question and walk away if they feel like they were struggling a little bit too.
Sorry, I just wanted to highlight those moves too because like the little ticket, it might seem like a bribe, but it's more like incentive, like to let them know that they're on the right page.
Mhm.
And sometimes, especially students who may not have the confidence as you're trying to build the confidence, I think that's a beautiful move to do as well. And then, uh, what was the final thing you said again? Sorry, Chris threw me off.
It was when I said I'll walk over and then like I might drop them a
Yes.
question and to get them thinking a little bit deeper about it if they were struggling with which one they were given.
Yeah, that's those continued thinking questions where you're dropping that in and you're walking away, and
Mhm.
they're kind of looking at you as you're walking away, like, why did she just drop that? Okay, let's talk about it because clearly it's something that we have to keep moving on.
Mhm.
But all these are beautiful moves that I think for our listeners who want to try math court, um, pay attention to those facilitating moves and maybe go back and listen because I think Stephen and Stacy both had a really like I think a good, well-rounded, at least starting point for math court too. So sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, you had mentioned you have a rubric, and is the recorder filling out the rubric for everyone, or is like the judge and prosecutor doing it for each other?
The recorder is filling out that, and they're writing down what the other three are saying. Now, if we had like a group, so if we didn't have an even number, a set of four, the judge would fill the spot of the recorder and be the judge and recorder at the same time if we
Got
didn't
it.
have enough people.
Okay, and I asked that because the question I know a lot of teachers will ask is they say, if I don't put it in my grade book, they're not going to be held accountable and they're not going to do it, right? So, did you do anything with grading with this, or was this just for the fun of tickets and getting them engaged? What did it look like for you in terms of scoring and using the rubric?
I did give a grade because they had to type their names and their name and what their position was. And so if I had somebody like if Alyssa was the prosecutor and did absolutely nothing, I did give her a zero. Like it might have been 10 points and everything else might be like 50, 70 points in the room. So it's not a big assignment. But for them to see a 0%, even though it's just a 0 out of 10, they were like, oh man, she means business. We actually got to do this. As where as long as you participated, it was a 10 out of 10.
Yes, Stephen, was it similar for you?
Actually, did not. I did not grade mine, but what I did do was go through the responses. So which we all did, all four of us who did the math court, went through all the responses together. But I went through those and I read some of them to the class. Like this is a really good response. Let's hear what a really good response looks like, and then I would read it. Um, and yes, I would also do the negative part of that. Let's look at a not so good response, kind of throw the responsibility back on them. So that's kind of how I did mine.
Okay, and then I think my last question, I just want to bring it back to that bug. So you started this whole adventure because you had that bug of kids didn't see that math is a place, I think you said for argumentation, or defending reasoning or something like that. And so did you have any information from them or feedback from them after all of this and or any data you collected after this? And so how has your bug been addressed, or what have you seen as changes?
Wonderful question. Yes, you are talking to someone that taught AP statistics. I do have data. I do have the data. So in my personal classroom, when we did the beginning survey, so on that question that we talked about arguing or defending your solutions, and I gave you the answer choices. Positive feedback was 26%. So that would have been in the almost every day, often category. After we've did math court and we did an end of the year survey, that jumped to 40%. I also have the data for the entire county as well. For the entire county, we were sitting at 20% positive responses. After running the math court, we were closer to 31%. So we did see an increase as a county for all four teachers. So we thought that was really cool.
Very cool. That concludes our questions, but we want to end by giving the two of you, Stacy and Stephen, a chance to share your final thoughts and any other advice you have for the audience. So the floor is yours.
I really have enjoyed when we got to run math court in the classroom. And I'm really grateful to be able to work with people who like want to see growth in their classrooms, and willing to do some of these crazy ideas. I never in a million years thought I'd be doing something goofy like running a courtroom in my math classroom, but here we are and it works. At least from what I can watch my kids in my room, it really works for them. And, it works for me. I enjoy it because I think it's fun. It's fun to sit and watch these kids get into it. They, they act like they're all big and bad to play pretend, but the moment we get down and do something goofy in math class, and they're learning. I mean, I can tell a difference, especially like when it's something that I've given them. And I know it's going to fall into place with their tests and stuff. I can see they're like, oh man, we talked about this. We went over this. And and I don't think they realize how much learning they're doing when they are, when they are having fun. So I think I would recommend it to anybody to at least try it once or twice, maybe even 3 times. Because the first couple times, not gonna lie, we all had a few problems. Like, that's life. It's going to happen. The first few times, nothing's going to go right. But after about the 3rd time, you've got it kind of figured out. Maybe the 4th or 5th, but that's okay. It gets better each time. The kids get better. We get better. Everybody gets better. I think everybody should try it. Whether you teach math, whether you teach English, science, social studies, whatever class. I think everybody should run some sort of version of it with them, any grade level.
Anytime we can get our students to talk about math in their classroom, that's a big win. I mean, learning comes through mathematical discourse. It's very engaging. Students love it. It's relevant to them. Everybody's seen an episode of Judge Judy. Come on now, right? Math Court. Listen, you heard the data. It's very promising. For me, it's one thing to be given a strategy or a change idea. It's another if there's some data behind it that shows that it works. And debating in a math classroom is very promising. The data supports it. It backs it up. Math Court, it's just another way to debate math in your class. And what's really cool about this is our first year doing this, running just a few iterations. I mean, it's in the open stages of development, could we say. We're just now, there's still so much adaptation we have to do to make it better. So what's really cool about this is that it has a very high ceiling. Math Court has a very high ceiling. The sky's the limit. And I'm hoping even for people that may hear about this, like how they may change it and adapt it is really cool to me, like how that will go, because this is just scratching the surface of what we can do with it.
All right, thank you. And this concludes our discussion. Now it's up to our listeners to take a moment, ponder these ideas, think about Math Court, and share with friends about this new cool activity and give it a try. I know it's the end of the year now, but I think this is going to be released right at the beginning of the year. So go ahead and take a try and let us know how it went.
And huge thanks, Stacy and Stephen, for joining us. I think this is a cool activity. I'm glad you're trying it and willing to share the ideas with us.
Thanks to all those who are listening. We hope you enjoyed and learned from this. Be sure to follow us on Blue Sky at DebateMathPod to share your thoughts on this idea.
As we wrap up, Stacy, where can listeners find you and chat with you more?
They can email me at Stacy, stacy.puckett, puckett.19 and then they can also find me on TikTok at Tutors Math World, TUTORSMATHWORLD.
And Stephen, where can listeners find you?
Yeah, so my email is stephenalley2023 at gmail.com. And then you can also find both of us on the m3twv.org website and even get acquainted to M3T and what's going on in the state of West Virginia.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Want to learn more about incorporating debate activities into your math classroom? Go to luzniak.com/podcast to sign up for my mailing list, learn more about debate math, and connect with resources you could use in your classroom today. That's luzniak.com/podcast.
Feel free to reach out to us with comments and questions on debatemath.com or follow us on social media at DebateMath or at DebateMathPod on Twitter.
And don't forget that you can text us with your thoughts on any of the debates too.
You can also rate and review us on Apple Podcasts.
Or wherever you listen to this podcast. Your feedback is super important to us. Well, that's all from us.
Looking forward to debating with you next episode. Until next time, cheers.